From his studios in New York, it's time for Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Here's your host, Dan Tortora.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. We're in that part of the morning menu this morning on Thursday, February 22nd, with Eric Crume, former Syracuse and NFL player, and I'm very happy to have him here, and a father of a child, Jada, who's about 8 months old as we're sitting here talking this morning. You've heard her on the show a little bit here. I knew I was going to have one special guest, and I ended up with two because God is good. So, you get 2-for-1 deals. You say thank you to the big man upstairs, and you keep rolling. So with that being said, see, she responded. So with that being said, on the break, Eric and I were discussing the fact that there was another trash talker that he didn't bring up yet, and I'm loving this because I have some thoughts on that Pinstripe Bowl game. So I'm going to open it up to Eric, and then I'm going to give my thoughts, and we'll have a little conversation about it. But, Eric, who, besides Minnesota, who was a big-time trash talker, the person that you brought up on the break?
Geno Smith.
So Geno Smith, former quarterback of West Virginia, and I love, I think it was Colin Cowherd that said it, because I like listening to Colin. He said it on the radio this week. He said that if you play in the Big 12, you play in a pillow fight conference because there is no defense. And what I saw with Geno Smith at West Virginia going into the game was that they were scoring 70 points in a game and winning 70 to 60 something. They scored 60 points, 40 points multiple times. They were never playing defense, and a lot of the times not having defense played on them. They were just outscoring teams, and I said, well, here's Syracuse and a good defense that people underestimate, and here's a team that hasn't played against a defense in the Big 12 the entire season that has been of any merit. So I saw this thing going down as if Syracuse does what they're supposed to do, they're going to completely surprise West Virginia, and they're going to knock them down a peg because if you're winning a game 70 to 50 or 70 to 60, your offense is scoring points, but your defense isn't even on the field. So with that being said, I felt like you guys outed Geno Smith because after that game, I already had my suspicions about the fact that they had no defense. After that game, I said on record, Geno Smith is not an NFL quarterback. And even if they draft him, they put him there, whatever, I said he is not a guy that is going to be your starter, that's going to lead your team and lead your franchise to winning games and getting to a position where you're going deep in the playoffs. I never believed in Geno Smith as an NFL quarterback, and after that game I said maybe he should play wide receiver. So those are my comments. What were your thoughts?
I just didn't think that he was cracked up to be, not to knock nobody's talent or skill level, but the way we shut him down, we ran the same scheme multiple years in a row, and we knew he couldn't figure it out. The thing about any quarterback is once they get rattled, how do they respond? The great ones know how to respond. He couldn't respond. Like, he was talking so much trash the whole week, even the Pinstripe Bowl. Like, we had to do the joint events for the bowl games. He just felt like he was the biggest guy in the room. Like, he felt like he was above everybody. And it was like, dude, we shut you down last time. Because my freshman year, we beat them in the dome where they was number 11 or number 9. We came in and smashed them. I think when Chandler had a big game on them. So it was one of the things that, like, if he can't figure this out, what's he going to do with pro defenses and pro coaches scheming against him?
Well, and that's the thing that I'm trying to, I was trying to sit there and understand is that West Virginia had this, well, we beat you, Syracuse, and you ain't got nothing. And, but I looked at the string of wins. It's like Syracuse had won, and I think it was 3 wins. I think it
was like 3 out of 4.
Yeah, so
say Noah Devine, I think that last year, like the year before I got there.
Yeah, so
the West Virginia won.
Right, so it's like Syracuse defeated West Virginia while West Virginia was talking trash, and then Syracuse played West Virginia again when West Virginia was like, whatever, you ain't nothing, and they beat them again. And then the third time around at the Pinstripe Bowl, they come in talking trash, feeling all big and bad, and I'm going, you got beat the last 2 times here, and you're still saying that Syracuse doesn't deserve to be in the room with you. So I said, if it's fool me once, fool me twice, what is fool me 3 times? So, to me, I thought it was a great vindication, even though that you guys weren't in the same conference like it used to be with the Big East. But, to talk trash and then lose, and then talk trash and then lose, you would think the third time around, if not the second time around, maybe you would just play the game. But kudos to Syracuse. They thought they had your number over and over and over again, and obviously that was not the case.
Because another thing interesting about that Pinstripe Bowl, we almost got in a fight before the game at midfield because they was talking so much trash. And the thing about football is there's tough guys and there's fake tough guys. And West Virginia had a lot of fake tough guys. Like, you take that helmet and shoulder pads off of them, and you see these guys walking on the everyday street. They wasn't bust a grape in the fruit fight, so it's like, oh, man, like, he was one of the people talking trash, like, dude, there's people on our team who know you personally, so you're not a tough guy, you know what I'm saying? So don't keep trying to portray something you're not. Go out there and play your game, but we had that number just because, we couldn't figure the defense out. And the thing about teams that score a lot, when you can run the ball against teams that score a lot, it takes their best weapon off the field, which is the offense, and putting up points. So if you limit their possessions, how much are they really going to score?
Yeah, and I think the funny thing about and I love what you just said. He couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. I thought that was, that I've never heard that before. So I don't. But it to me is like that. It's such a, like you said. There's tough guys and there's fake tough guys. There's guys that want to tell you what's going to happen, and then there's guys that are actually going to go out there and live by that ideal and get after it. For me, with Geno Smith, like you said, he kept talking trash. You guys almost fought at the beginning of the game. What was this man saying when you beat him over and over and over again, when they couldn't run the ball and couldn't complete big-time passes and just were not ready to play in that type of weather against that type of defense? When he kept talking, did you get to a point where you lined up on the line and you're like, man, shut up? Did you just get to that point, why are you still talking?
The game shut him up after a while because there was nothing to say. I remember they showed the picture of him on the bench with the saddest little puppy face, but it's only so much you can talk when you're losing. It's like, okay, let's keep talking for what? You're losing, But it was at the point, dude, you got clapped 3 years in a row, so how much you really going to talk? You might take Syracuse for granted, but they didn't beat you 3 years in a row.
Yeah, and so, you look at moments like that, and I got to ask you, as far as quarterbacks go, what quarterback... Because, obviously, as a defensive lineman, you're looking to hurry that guy. You're looking to bring him down. You're looking to make him feel what it's like to be on the other side of Eric Crume. So bring me into your favorite play against a quarterback that you faced.
Favorite play of a quarterback I faced? Just a favorite play I heard. I don't know, but I can remember, I would probably say Ty's Boyd. I like the way he competed. I got close to him a couple times. Even he just had scrambled and he got 1 yard rush. I was an inch away from getting the sack on him, and he just got far enough not to get the sack. So I remember that one because he wasn't really a trash talker. He was a competitor. He tapped me, good play, big fella, and all that. So I can remember stuff like that for the most part. So
Taj Boyd was one that stuck out to you.
Yeah, just because how he carried himself and playing. And Teddy Bridgewater stuck out too as well. It was nothing that he didn't get rattled at all. It surprised me. Usually you could rattle a guy. He was so calm, cool, collected, even though they were losing.
So you have that opportunity to get after it and to be on that strike type of defense. So before we get back to Jacksonville, your defense with Schaefer, and then obviously Schaefer hiring Chuck Bulla, who's gonna share his ideals. You don't hire somebody that's off the deep end in the other direction. So, Schaefer was always attack. We just blitzed 9 times. We're going to blitz a 10th time. Oh, they don't think we're going to blitz again. Oh, they think we're going to hit them again. That was the Schaefer way, and he brought that with Middle Tennessee to Syracuse this past season, which I fully felt like he was going to do. And on the first drive, he had Syracuse inside their own 2-yard line, and he sacked Eric Dungy. So, I mean, when we look at Schaaf, I mean, you could say it doesn't work, but you know it works, I know it works, and it worked in Middle Tennessee enough to take down Syracuse. So what do you think about the new style of Syracuse's defense where I call it the read and react as opposed to do something about it. It's almost like the building's on fire. Are you grabbing somebody that you could find that's by you in a cubicle and running out? Or are you looking around and trying to figure things out before you start to move? Are you reading and reacting to it, or are you just immediately saying, we got to go, we got to get out of here? You know, I have had questions for the current Syracuse defense. What do you think about the way that things are? Because it used to be an attack style, and now it's kind of just let's wait and see what happens.
I don't want to sound harsh to anybody listening, but I hate that defense. Love Coach Davis, but I hate the defense. You're not going to beat anybody like that. Look how many games they could have won if they'd have had an attacking defense. Because you can't sit a read and react game. Football is not a read and react game. You see it and you hit it. Who reads and reacts? Because you're basically giving up stuff. You're just a bend but don't break defense. No, you want to make plays as a defense. You got to think aggressive style. If you're not making no plays, you do read and react. You're not going to get any turnovers. You're not going to have a lot of sack amounts and stuff like that, which changes the game. If you can't get nobody behind the sticks, how can you really affect the flow of the offense? If you're reading and reacting and giving up about 4 or 5 yards every first or second down, which makes their play calling so much easier because they got so many things available. But I hate that defense.
Well, and the thing about it is, you know, I almost feel like when he came in, maybe, you know, does he trust his personnel? You know, he's trying to bring in his guys and whatnot. But it was almost like, okay, if we give up a little bit, but you stay in front of them, then we should be okay. You know, we're not going to give up the big play. But the fact of the matter is, even with this defense where you give them a little bit of space, you read and react, they're giving up the big plays. It's not changing anything. Because I thought, you know, does he think that they can't run with these guys? Does he think that, you know, they're not going to be able to hit in the open field the same way? Because ultimately, what it comes down to is my notion from what I've seen the last couple of years is I don't think these guys can hang with these guys man to man, so let me put them in a situation where they just have to react to something after it happens because maybe they can't run with them and maybe, you know, in the open field they're going to struggle with that, so let me keep them in a spot where they could see what's going on, and when that player's coming toward them, they can hit them. But the fact of the matter is, once that player's coming toward you, he's not going to run into you and allow you to bear hug him down. He's going to make a move, and we're talking about Florida State, we're talking about Clemson, we're talking about LSU. These players, once you give them 3 yards, they're going for 70.
Yeah, like you said, you're playing in this ultra-athletic conference, one of the, top 3 or 4 conferences in the country. They've had, 2 national, Clemson and Florida State won the championship in the last 5 years, so you had 2 of the last, 5 national championship winners in your conference. So you can't play being scared of what somebody's going to do. This is football. Everybody's going to make plays. Everybody's a Division I athlete for a reason. And that preventive defense can lose your game. Like we just talked about Jacksonville. Look how much they were up on Pittsburgh. They started playing bend but don't break defense and almost lost their lead. You know, so you can't beat people that way. I think he probably, because he can score so much, let's just hold him and we can outscore him. But you can't play the game that way. I believe if they had Coach Schaefer or Coach Bullock as defense coordinator, there'd be a 9-1 team easy.
You know, and that's the thing that I struggle with, because I feel like with guys like Zaire Franklin, you know, we look at a middle linebacker that was voted captain numerous times, represented Syracuse at ACC Media Day 3 times. I mean, this is somebody who's been a representation on and off the field of the Syracuse football program. Yet I feel this defense hurt him because there were games where he was in every play, he was healthy, but it's like he got lost on the field, like he was a ghost on the field, because guys like him and Antoine Cordy, when Antoine's healthy and whatnot, I mean, these guys are used to blitzing, they're used to attacking, they're used to going forward and not going backward and kind of reacting and looking at things. I feel like this defense could affect the draft stock of these guys, and the most notable, I feel like it could affect the draft stock of Zaire Franklin, because I feel like everything that people saw in the beginning, they see less now, and people are like, well, you know, look at the tackle amounts, you know, it's similar here, and this is similar, and that's similar. But the thing is, we saw the dog in Zaire Franklin, and then the last couple seasons, it was like, all right, Zaire, it's great that you want to play that way, but this is our style of defense. You need to adjust. I feel like putting him in this Baber style of defense, I think it could affect his draft stock, and ultimately, I feel like if he was under Schaefer's defense still and under that regime of it all, and it's no disrespect to Dino, I'm just stating a true fact. I feel like if they had played an attack defense like Schaefer had, then Zaire would have been at the combine this time around.
I could agree with that because when I first saw Zaire, he's a football player. You know, he might not be the fastest guy, but he's a player. Like him and Ferris Bennett, I think was like one of the best linebacker combos in the country. Not just because of my school or what my eyes tell me. And that defense did hurt him in a sense because you're playing a lot of that cover two preventing. You got to have the right personnel for that. And those, like you said, those guys are attack players. They're not sit back and wait. I've seen these guys develop over years. They want to attack, especially even when they were young, they just go. You know, you got speed. Then you're playing guys that are so athletic, you can't sit back and wait. You give a guy 3 yards, you can take that slant 80 yards or hit a crease and go 80 or 90 yards, you know. So I think you got to beat them to the punch. This, like Coach Schaefer used to say, beat a hammer, not the nail. So you want to lay the punch first.
Yeah, you know, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And we go back to Jacksonville, speaking here with Eric Crume, former Syracuse and NFL player on the defensive line, and Eric here with me this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, speaking on a bunch of things football-related, his history at Syracuse and so much more. Jacksonville, like you said, they played the bend but don't break, and I think even in Foxborough, when I was sitting there in the press box watching them back up and back up and back up and back up to the goal line that was closest to me in the press box, you know, for me, that was a game where they said, okay, you know, let's play not to lose the game, but let's not attack too much. Let's back up and see what we can do, because I'm sorry, but Tom Brady did not impress me in that Jacksonville game until the end of the game, the last couple minutes, whatever. He never went the length of the field the entire 60 minutes, never led a full field drive. He was helped out by 47 yards of penalties on one drive, a 36-yard penalty on a pass interference on another drive. He scored his touchdowns when Jacksonville gave up yardage on penalties, on another drive, and then when they punted the ball from their 10-yard line and couldn't get good field position, you know, couldn't put their defense in a good situation. So the capitalizing that Tom Brady had was what every NFL quarterback should be capable of doing of the 32, scoring from the 13-yard line, scoring for the 30-yard line, you know, opportunities like that. So I'm not trying to discredit what he's done in his history, but he was definitely set up to succeed. But the penalties is what killed Jacksonville, because he was not picking apart that defense by any stretch of the imagination through the majority of the game.
Yeah, you might be a sidekick. You might have read my mind. I feel the same way about that game because, for one, even the call A.J. Boyd was a terrible call. That pass interference would set them up to get points before the half. And the way watching the game, I felt like they got real stagnant in the play call. Like, they didn't go for the win. They played not to lose. And you can't play that way against anybody, especially Tom Brady and the Patriots, with them being so great and all that, because you only can stop somebody so many times. They still get paid like you get paid, you know. And I don't care how great your defense is. If they keep coming on the field, they're going to get tired. You know, you only can stop somebody so many times. They were constantly on the field because they start 3 and out and can have very short drives. Then you putting these guys on the field where they're playing 11, 12 plays each drive against the Patriots, and they're going down and scoring. I don't think it was something spectacular New England did. I feel Jacksonville lost the game more than New England won the game. And there's no slight to New England because they deserved it. They did what they had to do, but Jacksonville lost that game, if you just ask me.
Yeah, you know, and I felt that too. I felt like Jacksonville in those last my wife asked me like a minute after the game, she said, "When did you know?" And well, it was after I had done interviews. So I'm walking out of the locker room. I'm walking out of Foxborough. She said, "When did you know?" I said 6 minutes and 1 second left. I knew the exact time. I felt it in my gut. I looked at the time down on the field. and it was 6:01. That was the moment that I knew that things were changing, when Jacksonville was in a position where you got the advantage, but barely. And, Tom Brady, you put him in a situation where he's got that field and that opportunity. He's only got to go 13 yards, only got to go 30 yards, something like that. I mean, and that's the thing, is they wait and they wait and they wait for you to make a mistake. And, guys at the end of the game lagging a little bit on a play, maybe not getting to the middle of the field fast enough, maybe not catching somebody coming across like they did it, 10 plays before. And Brady took advantage of that. But, when push comes to shove, I go to the other side of it, and I go to Blake Bortles. Now, I'm going to say something that I've talked about on the show before. Blake Bortles was on the injury report all season long. He was on the injury report with a right wrist injury the entire season, every single week, playoffs, all of it. He had a tear in his right wrist back in December of 2016. He didn't have surgery. He comes into 2017 after having that injury. Comes in, goes to camp, goes to training camp, prepares himself, OTAs, all that good stuff, goes into the preseason and the regular season, takes shots during the season for his tear in his right wrist, plays all the way through the playoffs to that AFC Championship game. And we're talking about Tom Brady's little thumb injury and his little cat scratch on his thumb, when Blake Bortles was playing with a tear in his right wrist that he just recently had surgery on for over a year, and was a few points away from overtaking Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So can we please discuss how there's a lot of hatred for Blake Bortles, yet how many guys play with a tear on their throwing hand's wrist without surgery and do what he did?
Because people see what they want to see. I don't think that he's as bad as everybody tried to make him. For one, he lost his top weapon before the beginning of the season, or before the season started, with Allen Robinson going down. So you lose your top weapon. Hearns was hurt multiple times. Marquise Lee has had injury concerns through the years. So you never get a consistent chemistry with all your guys. And like you said, playing with an injury on your throwing hand, any quarterback knows that's a big thing to deal with. And you can't just give him a bad rap. They were, probably 4 or 5 plays away from the Super Bowl. Another score they're in the Super Bowl. So you can't just throw him under the bus. There's multiple things. I think he does what they need him to do. They're going to run the ball and play good defense. So you can't just make their plays here and there. That worked for him. I think he played a great game against Pittsburgh, and nobody talked about his good performance. I don't think he lost in the game in New England. I just think it was a culmination of things. It was more of how everything played out schematically, of being conservative. But I don't think he lost in the game by any stretch of imagination.
No, and I think the thing is, like you said, people want to believe what they want to believe, and they want to have, this theory that, he's just not a good quarterback and he's just not capable. But we look at the fact, and Nate Hackett brought it up with me on the show here when we did a sit-down conversation one-on-one with one another, and we were discussing how Blake Bortles has been in the league for 4 seasons, and he's had 3 different offensive schemes in 4 years, which means 75% of the time a coach and coaching staff are asking him to change this nuance, change this call, change what this looks like, move this over here, do this to that, and this over here. That's a lot on a quarterback to have to do that. Bringing over Greg Olsen as the offensive coordinator, I was never a fan of. He came from an Oakland team that had won 2 games. So I was like, great. You got somebody who is losing the majority of the time to lead your offense, who is struggling. And at that point, Jacksonville had a better record than Oakland. So Greg Olsen comes over. The offense doesn't get any better. They continue to falter. They continue to lose. And eventually, they make that move, and they let Nate Hackett fill in as an interim guy. And then when Doug Marrone took the job, I said it's a no-brainer. People were saying Chip Kelly, and I said hell no. Because Nate Hackett and Doug Marrone came to Syracuse, built their offense together on 3 different NFL schemes, and why would you not have your right-hand man everywhere you go when you've already taken him to Syracuse and Buffalo and down to Jacksonville? So Nate takes over, and Nate's been with Blake for a couple years as the quarterback's coach, and we see what Blake Bortles is capable of doing when a guy trusts him, when he breaks it down, and they work it out. And in all honesty, I had this conversation last night at the SU game. Shout out to Kip Wellman, who's on the SU basketball staff, who asked me about what I think about Blake's future. I have this conversation all the time, no matter where I'm at, about Blake Bortles, and people still saying to me, do you really think he's the guy? Now, I went into this past season saying that I've been on Blake's side for the last 3 years, and that I would stay on his side this season if he improved. Show improve. That's all he had to do. I said, if he falters this year and they have a tumultuous 3-win, 5-win season, then maybe it's time for me to say, you know what, maybe it is time for a change. But if he impresses and he works hard and he gets the job done, I'm going to say to you what I've said to you for the last 3 years, is that Blake Bortles is the guy that I trust. And I'm standing here today saying that when I'm having conversations last night like, well, don't you think that they should maybe make a play for, Kirk Cousins and pay him $25 million and this, that, and the other? I said, listen, I want Jacksonville to have a backup quarterback who's capable of starting, just in case they need it. But I don't want anybody coming to Jacksonville to take Blake Bortles' job. Because after you go to the AFC Championship game, play with a tear in your right wrist on your throwing hand, and you're 4 points out of going to the Super Bowl, what else does this man have to do other than kiss the feet of everybody that hates him so much? I think that the Blake Bortles train of I hate him, I hate him, I hate him, that should have stopped chugging when they got to the playoffs, if not the wild card, if not the divisional, and definitely in that Foxborough game. At this point, I feel like if you're still hating on Blake Bortles, you're just doing it out of habit and not so much out of actually researching reality.
I can agree with you. My thing is, let me give you a quick story about Coach Hackett. Shout out to Coach Hackett. I think that was a great move because he kind of changed our offense. I don't know if you know this. My sophomore year, when Ryan Nassif had that big year, he changed the offense 2 weeks before the season to go fast pace. Like, he did it when we were up at Fort Drum, changed the whole offense up. And we had our best offensive season under him. So I think he was a great fit for Blake Bortles, and understanding that let me fit what you do well and try to put you in a position to succeed. And a lot of good players don't even have that. That's a lot of players that are better than what they might display, but do they have the right coaches to put them in position to display their talent and their ability?
Yeah.
And the thing is, what makes sports so great and a downfall is that we're quick to compare others to people of the past or the best of the best. If you think Blake Bortles and Aaron Rodgers, or Tom Brady, but he was 4 plays away from the Super Bowl. So if you can't just sign a quarterback that you're going to win the Super Bowl with, what are you really getting? Then you can't really lose. You exercise his fifth-year option. Then if he doesn't show you what you need to do next year, you are still sign a quarterback the next year. Quarterbacks, so it's not like, oh, let's just go dive into a quarterback. Because what if you sign the quarterback and still don't win the Super Bowl? What did you accomplish? To make it back to the AFC Championship or the playoffs, you didn't get any better. Only thing now is, if you sign the quarterback, they have to win you a Super Bowl to say you achieved a difference in getting another quarterback. If you don't win a Super Bowl, what you did was a failure as far as changing the quarterback.
Right, and leaning on Blake Bortles in Pittsburgh seemed to work out okay enough to get those points and to score 40+. So, I think that the train about hating on him should have left the station a long time ago into oblivion, but people are going to do what they want to do. Before I let you go, speaking here with Eric Crume, Syracuse and NFL alum, Eric, Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Sam Bradford, Jay Cutler, Josh McCown, Chad Henne, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Mark Sanchez, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, Geno Smith, and so on and so forth. Blaine Gabbert, who was supposed to be the franchise guy for the Jaguars, didn't work out. E.J. Manuel, Brock Osweiler, who's made a ton of money, having to do very little. Matt Barkley, Brandon Whedon, A.J. McCarron now, so on and so forth. Last year, I was literally grasping at straws to try and find a couple quarterbacks, 2, 1, 3, whatever it may be, that I could say, yeah, I would take them on my team. This year, there's a cornucopia of quarterbacks that you could take and potentially have as your starting quarterback. What do you think about free agency for quarterbacks? What's on your mind? How about this? I'm going to go down the line, and you're going to tell me what you think about if they stay where they're at or if they go somewhere else. Can we do that?
I'm with you.
All right, let's do it. So I'm going to start with Drew Brees. Stay in New Orleans, go somewhere else.
Stay in New Orleans, no brainer.
Okay, Sam Bradford. Stay in Minnesota. The man has really never had a healthy year in the NFL. Stay in Minnesota or send him packing.
I send him packing, honestly. He can't stay healthy, and he still hasn't shown me enough to be a number one pick. He has ability, but he's too easy to rattle for me personally. Like, I've seen him get hit, and he falls down by the slightest touches, so I would send him packing.
Jay Cutler. Didn't do much when he was in Chicago, went to Miami and had some hopes. Miami did some good things, but he was a $10 million hit. What do you do with Jay Cutler? Do you keep him if you're Miami and say, stay behind Ryan Tannehill, God forbid, once again, coming off that ACL injury, or do you say, Jay, you got to go?
Send him back to the broadcasting booth.
Oh.
Give me sign the fuck. Send him back to the broadcasting booth.
All right, fair enough. Okay. Ryan Fitzpatrick. He does some good things. He's up and down in his career. Sometimes he'll win you games. Sometimes you scratch your head. What do you do with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was playing on Tampa last year?
Keep him as a backup. I'll keep him as a backup, just in case of emergency. You know, he's played in a lot of NFL games and has good experience. I think he's a quality backup.
Teddy Bridgewater. If you're a team looking for a backup quarterback, do you run and get this guy? Does Minnesota keep him? What are your thoughts on the future of Teddy Bridgewater, who spent almost 2 years off the field?
I like Teddy Bridgewater personally because I just said when I played against him, he was a calm, cool, collect. I like that about a quarterback, but it's going to be hard to get him as a backup. I think he should sign like a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, if he believes in his ability. Because I wouldn't settle for less seeing what quarterbacks are getting paid, and he was the starter before he got hurt, so I would sign a 1-year deal to prove a deal if I was him to stay in Minnesota, because you're familiar with you, they back you during your injury, so I would sign a 1-year prove a deal, honestly.
Geno Smith. Keep him, get rid of him. He was with the Jets, with the Giants most recently, playing in the same arena. Do you keep him and then, as a quarterback or as a wide receiver?
I just think it's time for him to get a new opportunity because they draft David Webb in the 3rd round. You still got the Eli thing going on, and he hasn't had much success in New York as a Jet or a Giant. So you keep him on quarterbacks, and you still got a young quarterback under your roster, and you still don't know what you're going to do with Eli Manning yet. So I think it's other things to worry about.
Brock Osweiler filled in for Peyton Manning in the season that they went to and won the Super Bowl.
You don't have to go no more. Let him go. You have to keep explaining. Let him go.
Fair enough. Okay.
When the team pays you not to play for the team, the Browns paid you $16 million and told you to go play something. That should let you know all you need to know.
And when the Browns tell you that you're not good enough to start for them, I'm terrified in that moment. So, that A.J. McCarron, he wins his grievance with the Cincinnati Bengals. He's a free agent. He's, in my opinion, one of the best backups that has never gotten a starting job in the NFL, backing up Andy Dalton on an offense and a team that never seems to truly get it right. A.J. McCarron, where would you like to see him go?
I really like to see him get a shot because I always think he came in and did a good job. I'm just trying to find maybe I think he can try to be a good guy in Arizona, so I'd like them to get a nice little quarterback to get because they got a lot of talented players on their roster. So maybe in Arizona, something like that. Or maybe even the Jets if they don't want to draft a quarterback.
So you're thinking the Jets for A.J. McCarron. I can see that. Arizona's got some talent out there right now. I just feel like A.J. McCarron, I feel like him and Andy Dalton are similar, and if Andy's good enough to be a starter, I just never understood why A.J. just had to sit there forever. Why keep him if you don't appreciate him enough to play him?
That's a great point.
And let's see. I want to go to a couple more here. Okay, how about this one? Minnesota. Sam Bradford, Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum. Who do you keep? Who do you let go?
I would try to keep Teddy and Case and have a quarterback competition just because you don't know how Teddy's going to play off that injury. But I would let Sam Bradford go personally because you don't need 3 quarterbacks, especially hard to pay them a decent amount of money. You don't want to invest that much money in one position unless you got a franchise quarterback that you're paying all that money to. You don't want to be paying 3 different guys at least over $5 million apiece.
Fair enough. And I think Case Keenum, you'd be stupid if you're Minnesota. But again, Minnesota gets to the door, Jacksonville gets to the door, and for some reason people are talking about, well, is Case really that good, and is Blake Bortles really that good? Somebody had said, it was one of the talking heads said, if there was a draft of quarterbacks, I wouldn't draft Blake Bortles in the top 20 of 32. And I was like, well, I didn't really think that you were intelligent before, and it's happy to know that I still don't think you're intelligent today. I mean, if Blake Bortles is not a top 20, because here's a funny thing. There were 4 quarterbacks playing in the championship round, and there was guys that were named Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, that were sitting at home, and Cam Newton, sitting at home and watching these games. So I just find that's going to be a little bit interesting that Blake Bortles still doesn't get the respect he deserves. But you know what? People are going to say what they want to say, do what they want to do. I just want that man to go to work like he always has. Kirk Cousins.
Number 12 at QBR, too. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, that the quarterback rating, he was in the top 12. Kirk Cousins. Yeah, what do you think about Kirk? I mean, he's obviously been in a situation where I didn't know that you could get franchise tagged 3 times, and Kirk Cousins and the Washington Redskins have taught me and many people that you can have a 3-time tag, which is literally just throwing money out the window while disrespecting a player. If I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm saying, for the love of all things holy, let me leave this team. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins and his future?
For one, the franchise tag, he'd have been at $34 million this year, so I don't know how bad their franchise tag would have been for $34 million, but I would like to see him in Denver or Arizona. I want to see him play for a competitive team and see what he can do with some weapons. Like, Denver has Demarius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. They got a couple good defense. They have a premier corner, a premier pass rusher, so they got some things they can do. And you got John Elway as a front office executive, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, to learn from and pick his brain. And Kurt is a Michigan guy, so I got to cheer for Curdy from the dirty glove, as we call it.
Now, and to round out here with Eric Crume, you said there was 5 elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and I had said weeks ago on the show, ironically, that there was 5 to 6 in the NFL that you could argue. I'm going to give you mine. You give me yours, since we both are right there around the same number. I said Tom Brady, in no specific order, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, as well. So you got Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, that you can comfortably say those guys. I also look to the potential of, even though they don't win that much, and I know our resident Detroit fan just wrote Stafford within a millisecond. I was getting to it, bro. But so Matt Stafford is somebody that, I think you can argue in there. Nobody in the AFC South, nobody in the AFC West, in the AFC North besides Ben Roethlisberger, no. In the East besides Brady, no. In the NFC East right now, jury's still out on that. NFC North, I got my 2. NFC South, you could say Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, and then
the same list for the most part. Though.
Okay.
I only got one thing I will add to yours.
And would that be Russell Wilson? Who would it be?
Yeah, that'd be Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Over Matt Stafford. I think because when you consider elite, it's about your resume as well. Like, it's a lot of quarterbacks with elite talent and do elite things, but you got to be consistently great over a period of time to be elite, in my eyes. I don't know what other people consider elite. Like, Cam Newton has elite talent and elite ability. He had an elite year when they went to Super Bowl. Matt Ryan had an elite year when they went to Super Bowl. He can do some elite things, but you have to consistently do this over a period of time. And always, when these guys step on the field like Drew Brees and Tom Brady, you have a chance to win, no matter what the circumstances is.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it makes sense that, our list is right there on point, and with 5 to 6 teams having elite quarterbacks, that leaves 27 or 26, depending on how you look at it, looking for an elite guy, which means there's always room to grow. And with that being said, there's room to grow this segment and this opportunity with Eric Crume, and I look forward to having you back on the show very soon, my good sir. So I appreciate your time and appreciate you being a part of the broadcast, and I look forward to what's to come as we continue on the conversation, but thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me, and everybody keep tuning in. My man DT kicking the knowledge to you through the mornings.
I appreciate that very much, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Okay, you have a good one.
All right, take care. That coming from Eric Crume once again, and I appreciate what he had to say about that. That was very nice of him. So, it's always good to hear that somebody appreciates what they listen to and what they're around, and if you can, if you can be in a position where you can affect people's lives in a positive way, then you're doing something right. And I feel blessed to say that I feel that that's what we do here.